Now, with the aftermath of the Mets' historic trade deadline pivot, a lot of fingers have been pointed with a lot of rumors floating around about the Mets clubhouse in 2023. Now, Mike Puma of the New York Post reported that an anonymous Met tipped that recently traded pitcher Justin Verlander was, quote, a diva and often complained about the Mets analytics department, which he deemed inferior to the one that served him in Houston. Puma also reiterated that former Tigers and Mets teammates Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer often had a strained relationship in Detroit, as the same source said that the two Hall of Fame pitchers worked towards harmony while in the Mets organization, but there was still occasional discord. Verlander was reported very detached from his Mets teammates, didn't add anything to the team's identity, as opposed to Scherzer and Bassett doing so last season. Francisco Lindor also spoke up about the Mets clubhouse chemistry as a whole and why it may have seemed better last year. Lindor cited the benches clearing brawls in Washington, D.C. and in St. Louis really brought the clubhouse together, saying that it made us closer, but we haven't had anything like that this season. I'm not saying we should, but that was part of it in my eyes. Other rumors have surfaced about the lack of leadership in the clubhouse all season after SNY reporter Steve Gelbs described that from day one, something just felt different with this group than last year's group. A lot more disconnected, not as close-knit. It's noticeable, and we haven't talked about it as much because there's just been so much that has gone on this season that has gone wrong. What are the takeaways from this?
I think it's, Mike Puma looking for something to talk about with how bad the team is, deadline's up. Drama is something that it seems like always follows the Mets. It seems that every year there's always a clubhouse drama storyline that the reporters feel the need to talk about. Don't really see it with the other teams, but for the Mets, there's always drama. There's always something going on. Someone doesn't like someone does like someone. And how could it be possible that the manager of the year, the guy who was brought in here to get rid of that, bad chemistry, the bias and Lindor and all that stuff, Buck Showalter's here now. It's going to be great leadership. Everyone's going to be on the same page. Now, all of a sudden, you don't have leadership. How is that possible, Buck Showalter here with manager of the year? How can that happen? I mean, that just seems absolutely impossible. But it's just so obvious that, when you're winning, everybody loves everybody. Smiles, high fives, hugs, slap your ass, whatever you want to do. Everyone gets along when you're winning. But all of a sudden, when you're the worst team in the division, now we hate each other. Now we're all pissed. Now we're all upset. We're stressed. Nobody likes anybody. No kidding. I mean, good play is contagious. It brings everyone together. And you know what? Francisco Lindor brings up a good point. Where is the fight in this team? With Buck Showalter, it seems to me that last year he was much more of a fighter than he was this year. He seems so just absolutely so okay with what's going on. There was even earlier in the year, before the deadline, where the Mets were just getting robbed by umpires, just brutal calls, brutal decisions made. And Buck would just talk to him, and he's like, okay, yeah, no problem. I mean, there's just no fight in him at all. So, and I think that rubs off on the team, where, if your leader's not fighting, why are you fighting? I mean, I just think that it doesn't portray a good message to everybody else. So, to me, I don't buy too much into this stuff because it's what does it matter? Because if Verlander didn't get along with Scherzer and Verlander was such a problem, why is it that the Mets traded Verlander and they're horrible now? So it didn't make a difference. I mean, they were bad with him. They were bad without him. So to me, this is all just extra stuff. This is your usual nothing to talk about, make up something to write about. So, all this anonymous this, Tigers, Mets that, come on.
Who's the anonymous Met, though? I do want to know who it is.
Drew Smith.
No, it's Jeff McNeil.
But, again, you're still seeing it's the same leaders. A fat tub of lard. And Lindor, who's, again, has definitely grown as a leader in front of a camera. You've seen him grow as a person, at least in front of the camera. We don't see behind those doors. There's no alpha. Again, we've said it all the time, there is no alpha on this team. Sure as hell ain't our old-ass, sleepy-ass manager, that's for damn sure. And like Frank said, this is the manager of the year, and, all feisty Buck Showalter. Now he's just sitting on his ass, Luis Rojas impressed, and just somebody gets hit. And then he has the balls to say, I think, about when somebody got hit, about you guys continuing to get hit, you need to stand up for your guys. And he goes, oh, we don't do that anymore. That's not right. Just two wrongs don't make a right. I think it just shows, again, this team is soft, and there is no, and we would have thought Max Scherzer, psychopath, that would have worked. Him being the alpha, but hell, he's a little bitch too. So JV's gone, and they're still sucking. They're not going to change the manager, so that voice isn't going to change. It's still going to be this old man next year. It looks to be. It's still going to be the same core, same group of guys with minor adjustments, but nobody that's going to step into that locker room and say something. So if it is an issue, it's going to continue in the next year with no change in sight because this is the team. And if it's a team issue, I've been trolling say it. Somebody's got to go. Easiest got to go is the guy at the free agent after next year. I'm not saying it. I want it to happen, but something's got to change. And nobody's taking that Lindor deal on. Nobody's probably taking the McNeil deal on. You're not going to trade Nemo. So if somebody's got to go, the easiest go is the hardest guy to replace. But he's the easiest way to shake the room up.
We definitely got a breath of fresh air last year as to what this clubhouse kind of looked like. We saw a lot of the veteran pieces that come in kind of defending the core that was here from the beginning. And it kind of just clicked fairly well. And, there was a lot of things to be angry about from their opponents of being hit a lot and just chesting up to a lot of opponents. Now, that kind of fizzled out towards the end of the year. There wasn't much fight towards the end. They looked like a baseball team last year at the beginning of the year defending their teammates. We have seen tons of times, and we all know with how top-heavy this lineup is, we all know that Pete Alonso is not going to get that many pitches inside of the strike zone. And technically, the best way to get him probably is the high-end fastball. So he is going to be pitched in a lot, and he gets hit a lot. Every single time when this guy gets hit this year, all I've seen, nobody comes out of the dugout to defend him. This is the guy that you're nothing without, right? If he doesn't hit, no one else is hitting. No one's going to defend him whatsoever. And we saw it a few times, but for some reason, nobody does it now. Nobody knows how to send a message whatsoever. They're all just sitting down and taking it. That's literally it. Not even, there's been tons of instances where Lindor has gotten hit, where Alonso's gotten hit in dangerous body areas that could put them on the injured list, and it did put Pete on the injured list and derail his home run pace season. And you look at the Mets dugout behind him as he's sitting on the ground, no one gets up, no one moves. Everyone's just staring at him. And that's like how I see it in this clubhouse. It's just every man for himself. That's literally how it's looked all season. And there's a reason for that. You have so many veterans here. You can't find a leader. Everybody does their own thing, right? You don't see Justin Verlander going up to Starling Marte and saying, oh, you should be doing that. Starling Marte is a veteran as well. So you don't have veterans telling veterans what to do. That's another reason of bringing in a lot of older pieces to this team. They made an older team older, and that's what you looked at. Now, as for Verlander and Scherzer, again, they should have known from the beginning that these guys have had a history of disagreeing with each other, of being these fierce competitors that get in each other's head and get in front. Like, they should have been aware of this. Right? They should have been aware of a lot of things that they brought in this season. I personally am not surprised. I haven't been surprised at many things that have happened this season. I'm not surprised that from, when Steve Gels said from day one that it felt different. Because whether you want to talk about DeGrom hating New York or whatever you want to talk about of him wanting to be out of here, I don't remember him when the team was losing making such a huge stink about it. Whether Lindor thinks it's a lot different, it definitely is a lot different because it shows on the field. Whether you thought the play was sustainable or not, this team's dead. They're dead in the water. They are not doing anything. The season is done. First time that they were below 500, they never stopped playing below 500 baseball. So I would not be surprised if there were clubhouse issues that we do not know about. Because we had these clubhouse issues in 2021. Let's not forget that whole debacle with Lindor and McNeil as well, going after each other. And it didn't translate whatsoever. There was no leadership. Now you have a bunch of guys who could be leaders on a team. You have absolutely no flow whatsoever. Like, it's just a top-heavy veteran roster. Everybody does their own thing. There's no continuity whatsoever. And that's the problem with this team. They're old, they're outdated. And those old guys will continue to get grumpy.